All right, welcome. So, have you ever stopped to think about this? You've got the apps on your phone and computer, all written in one kind of language. And then you've got these massive databases speaking a totally different language. How in the world do they talk to each other so smoothly? Let's get into it.
I mean, seriously, just picture an e-commerce site juggling all its products, users, and orders. Or think about your banking app handling countless transactions every second. They all have to store and pull up huge amounts of data in a flash. The whole trick hinges on that perfect, seamless connection between the app and its database. So, how do they pull it off? Okay, so before we can really appreciate the solution, we first have to understand the problem. And trust me, it's a doozy. In the software world, it's often called the two worlds problem. It's this deep, fundamental clash between how we write our code and how we store our data. Let's break that down. On one hand, you've got your application code, maybe in a language like Java. It thinks in terms of objects, these flexible, connected ideas, like a user object that holds a name, an email, and maybe a whole list of past orders. But then, on the other hand, you have the database. It doesn't think like that at all. It thinks in rigid tables with rows and columns, kind of like a giant, very strict spreadsheet. And this gap, this total disconnect, is what engineers call an impedance mismatch. They just don't speak the same language. Period. And for the longest time, developers were stuck being the manual translators. Using something called JDBC, they had to write out specific SQL code for literally every single thing they wanted to do. You want to save a new user? You write an SQL insert statement. You want to find a product? You write a select statement. You'd have to physically pull data from a table piece by piece and map every column to a field in your code. It was so tedious, so repetitive, and a perfect recipe for bugs. But imagine, what if you didn't have to do all that? What if you had this super smart, totally automated translator that just handled it all for you? Well, that is exactly where our hero, Hibernate, enters the scene. It's the brilliant fix for this entire communication mess. See, Hibernate is a type of technology that we call an ORM, which is short for Object Relational Mapping. And honestly, the name kind of gives the whole game away. It's a programming technique that automatically maps your code's objects to the database's relational tables. It is that powerful, skilled translator sitting in the middle, letting these two different worlds chat away fluently without the developer having to translate a single word. And look, when it comes to ORM frameworks, especially in the Java world, Hibernate is, well, it's the king, the undisputed heavyweight champion. It's a powerful, time-tested tool that has really become the go-to standard for solving this exact problem. And the payoff for using it? Oh, it's huge. All of a sudden, your code doesn't really care which database it's talking to. You could switch from one to another with hardly any changes. You get to ditch all that mind-numbing, repetitive boilerplate code. It handles writing the complex SQL for you, and it can even boost performance with smart data caching. It's a win-win-win. So you're probably wondering, how does this magic trick actually happen? And what's wild is how simple and, well, elegant it is from the developer side. Instead of writing tons of clunky configuration files, the developer just gives Hibernate a few simple hints right there in the code. It works like this. It's pretty cool. A developer writes a normal Java class, let's say one that represents a course. Then they just sprinkle in a few of these little tags called annotations. A tag like @entity is basically telling Hibernate, hey, this class here, it needs to be saved in the database. Another one, @ID, says, and this field, that's its unique identifier. Hibernate just reads those simple tags and does all the hard work itself. It creates the database table, it figures out the columns, all that heavy lifting is just automated away. And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. By taking over the whole database communication thing, Hibernate frees developers up. They can stop obsessing over the details of SQL and how tables are structured. Instead, they can focus all their brainpower on building the actual features of the app. You know, the business logic that actually brings value to us, the users.
But here's where it gets even cooler. Hibernate isn't just a simple, dumb translator. Nope, it's a really intelligent one. It gives you some seriously powerful tools to make the way your app talks to the database incredibly efficient and, well, sophisticated. For starters, Hibernate has its own query language called HQL. Now, instead of writing raw SQL that operates on tables and columns, you write HQL that operates directly on your Java objects and their fields. For example, you can write a query like, from course, where price less than 100. See that? You're using the object name course, not some database table name. Hibernate then takes that and translates it into the correct optimized SQL for whatever database you're connected to. It's completely portable.
Hibernate also gives you incredible control over performance with something called fetching strategies. Think of it like having two types of personal assistants. You've got eager loading, which is kind of like the oversharer. You ask for an instructor, and they immediately bring you the instructor plus all the courses they teach, whether you needed them or not. Then you've got lazy loading, the efficient assistant. You ask for the instructor, you get just the instructor. Only if and when you ask for their courses does the assistant go back and fetch them. This is so much smarter and keeps your app from getting bogged down loading data you don't even need.
Okay, so we've looked at the problem, we've met the solution, and we've even checked out some of its really clever features. But let's bring this all back to the real world. Why does any of this truly matter? Where is this technology actually making a difference?
Well, the reality is, Hibernate is the invisible engine humming away in the background of a ton of applications you probably use every single day. We're talking about e-commerce sites managing their giant product catalogs, financial systems that handle secure transactions, or even the content management systems that serve up news articles. Hibernate is a cornerstone technology working behind the scenes in all of them.
So if you boil it all down to one single takeaway, one primary goal for a tool like Hibernate, it's this: abstraction. It's about creating that powerful translation layer between the world of code and the world of data, which frees up developers to focus on what really, truly matters: innovating and building amazing things for all of us to use. And that kind of leaves us with a big, fun question to think about, right? We've successfully built this incredible bridge to solve the massive communication gap between our code and our data. So, what's next? What's the next giant barrier in software development that's just waiting for a brilliant translator to come along and abstract it away? What's the next thing we can solve to unlock even more creativity? Something to chew on. Thanks for watching The Explainer.